So when an underwriter looks at a commercial auto risk, there's a whole lot of variables we look at, a whole lot of things go into the whole selection and pricing processes. But the top three, the three things that we spend most of our evaluation time in, the three things that most of our evaluation weights go to, the three things that will most impact your premiums and acceptability are drivers, losses, and safety compliance. And the next thing that underwriters put a lot of time and emphasis on is DOT compliance. Okay, we probably put as much evaluation weight on safety compliance as we do on drivers and loss histories. There's lots and lots of insurer data that says the poorer the safety scores, the greater the likelihood of crash events. And I know the scores are sometimes controversial. I read tons of things about CSA, and some parts of it work, some parts of it don't work so well. There's going to be plenty of room for improvement in CSA scores, but the reality is it's the world we live in, and they impact claims. CSA scores are admissible in court usually. So what are the plaintiff attorneys doing as soon as that accident occurs? They're pulling up all those score reports, they're bringing them into the courtroom, and they're influencing juries. So it's hard for us as an industry to defend insureds with poor scores. Sometimes we just have to give up and pay. We say, we maybe have a good story, but the insured is not defensible for us in court because those scores are going to be admitted and they're going to influence the jury. Same thing is true with drivers. Certain MVR histories we can't defend. When it becomes a he said, she said scenario, and the driver's MVR is a mile long, we give up and pay. You're just going to put good money after bad, mounting legal expenses, and claim you're probably going to lose. So we have to consider DOT scores for that reason. And jury awards, because those things are admissible, the plaintiff attorneys use those scores to influence the juries, and the awards become higher. The settlements, the awards become higher. The worse the scores, the more we pay in the event of those losses. So underwriters will usually look at out-of-service rates. We'll look at the driver out-of-service rate, compare it with the national average. We'll look at the vehicle out-of-service rate, compare that with the national average. If it's a hazmat hauler, is a hazmat out-of-service rate. We'll look at the safety rating. Is it satisfactory, conditional, or unsatisfactory? And we'll look at the basic alerts, those 7 basic categories from CSA. When any one of those 7 exceeds a certain threshold, you get the warning letter from the DOT, and we look at those. And insurance will become very challenging if the out-of-service rates exceed national averages by a moderate amount, more than a minor amount. Insurance will become very challenging if the safety rating is conditional or unsatisfactory, and insurance will become very challenging if there's 1 or more basic alerts. So strategies for DOT compliance, communication, same things we talked about otherwise, but communicate to the drivers how these safety scores impact your operation. Many ways, okay? Who's the DOT stop? I think John mentioned that earlier. There's 15,000 DOT officers in the U.S. roughly. Some of them are part-time. There's 525,000 DOT numbers, so you can't see everybody. They target interventions based on past roadside inspections. The poorer the past roadside inspections were, the more likely there is for an on-site intervention, and the more likelihood of roadside inspections. Okay, that's who they target. So poor DOT scores impact insurance rates, but it also means you're stopped more. Your drivers are probably paid per mile. They're not making money because they're spending more time with DOT officers than they want to, and your loads aren't being delivered on schedule, things like that. So it definitely has an impact in many areas of the organization beyond just insurance pricing. Again, driver reward programs. See tons and tons and tons of the fleets I underwrite, they have a bonus program for the drivers. Make the driver accountable, but make them a part of it. You know, $50 for every past DOT inspection, $100 sometimes for a past DOT inspection. You know, we see different things. It can just be recognition at an annual meeting if you don't like the monetary awards, but somehow make the driver a part of it and reward the driver for their past inspections and maybe penalize the drivers for their failed inspections, or at least retrain them. And then log on to the SMS website periodically and review it. Insureds or motor carriers who manage their safety scores always have better safety scores than motor carriers who do not manage them. So you can log on to the SMS website, you can view your own scores. With the PIN number, you can see the driver's name for each violation that occurred. You can pull it up by VIN number, see this vehicle is constantly causing problems. Maybe we need to address it mechanically. This driver is constantly causing problems. Maybe I need to address it with him in some manner. Okay, you can see what happens. And then the MCS 150 that you have to file every 2 years, two of the basic categories are calculated in a large part based on miles traveled. So if you have not updated your mileage in 2 or 3 years, and it's less mileage than you run today, your score is artificially higher than it should be. 2 of those categories use mileage in the calculation. 5 of them do not. But just updating your mileage can sometimes drop the score, making sure that's correct. And then there are 2 processes. I think we're going to hear more about those today from other speakers. But if you have a violation that you think is in error, you think it should be challenged, challenge it. That's data Q. I saw a presentation in Florida. We had a Florida DOT officer there, and he told the audience that they were overturning about 50% of the violations that were challenged through the data Q system. So again, if you're managing and you're making those challenges when you feel it's a good idea to challenge, it will help you. It'll help keep your scores down. They have the crash preventability demonstration program now. So those DOT reportable accidents that are not your fault, you can supply evidence through this program, and that crash will be removed from your crash score calculations. So those are all ways you can manage it. And then, analyze the inspections. I think we hit that. And then know who you hire. Okay. John touched this morning on that pre-employment screening program. It's the number one thing we recommend when we send loss control folks out. Okay. It gives you 3 years of your driver's prior inspection data. So you can see how he's performed in DOT inspections. Guess what else you see? Who his employer was. So when you look at that employment application, if there's an employer who he was inspected under, he or she may be conveniently omitting a place of employment. Okay, so it'll help you catch that. It shows you 5 years of DOT crashes. So you can compare that with the application, make sure that your application accurately shows, the driver's crashes. So 3 years of inspection data, 5 years of crash data, and basically don't hire someone else's problems. Or if you choose to hire that driver anyhow, you know what you have. You can train them, you can counsel them, you can relay your expectations to them, and it maybe stop that. Otherwise, that prior pattern probably continues. So PSP is a really, really valuable tool. Here's a Department of Transportation study, and they looked at motor carriers who use the PSP system, contrasted against motor carriers who do not use PSP. They broke it into driver size classes, but regardless, you can see in every single category, motor carriers who use PSP had a reduction in their crash rates. In every single driver size category, Motor carriers who use PSP had an improvement in their driver out of service rates. Understand who you hire. Avoid the problems or hire the problems, counsel them, and train them.
If you found this video useful, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more future videos that'll be coming out.